Last year, across all industries, nearly 69 million people quit their jobs. Led by mid-career women stretched thin balancing childcare and their professional lives, workers reevaluated their priorities and sought out positions where they felt more supported, more valued, and more fulfilled. This record-breaking Great Resignation of 2021 is continuing into this year, leaving companies scrambling and seeking solutions to issues of recruiting and retaining talent. Things may seem bleak now, but what if I told you that this trend is actually a good thing for companies? Not since the Industrial Revolution have we had this kind of opportunity to completely reimagine and rebuild the world of work. Based on early successes that I've seen, I'll show you how this is a new future of work and how you can use this current trends to your benefit and your competitive advantage. I'm Saujin Yi. I'm the founder and CEO of Liquid, a VC-backed fintech startup, Anderson MBA class of 2007, and an optimist and cheerleader for this future of work that is accelerating towards us. So, who am I to be talking about all of this anyway? Well, I've been seeping in this world for a long time, starting with Anderson at 2005. Like a good business school student, my mantra was work the least and earn the most. So unencumbered by a full-time job, I could be as creative as I wanted to achieve this goal. And I was a pretty good former banker, so my past colleagues asked me for help on various projects. And instead of doing the work myself, I channeled that mantra. For each financial model or deck that I was asked to do, I found and outsourced to my classmates who were much better fit for that project, and we'd get that work done together. Well, they would get it done, and it would be much more efficient if I had done it myself. And it was an easy and enjoyable way for us to earn some what we used to call beer money. After Anderson, even when I had full-time jobs, I always kept up with this kind of side hustle, bringing together smart and reliable friends to work on short projects for quick money was always fun and rewarding. So over the years, I perfected this flexible work structure, and in 2016, my business partner, Tamara Johnson, Anderson Femba 2012, starting right there, and I started Flex Team, which is a consulting company leveraging a network of executive-level women doing project-based work for our clients. Our company was not only both the hire of the flexible talent, but also the vendor to clients. We took on projects from startups to Fortune 500 companies, and within the first 2 years, we built up a roster of 400 reliable people that we can tap for projects on demand. And today, I run Liquid, a software startup building the operating system for agile businesses and independent contractors. So basically, I've really done everything in this world, and that's why I'm here talking about it today. So before I dig in further, let's start with this. Why should you care? Understanding the trends and opportunities, especially when it comes to meeting the needs of tomorrow's workforce, can position a company to innovate and profit massively. Today, like Toyota that empowered the workers on the manufacturing line, or IBM that created programs especially for their working moms. The Great Resignation has highlighted the gaps that exist between how companies employ people and the needs of the modern worker. Recognizing and addressing this gap could give you a competitive edge in hiring and retaining great talent, which could lead to accelerated growth and, frankly, a lot more money. So corporate structures as we know them are a relic of the past. If you actually think about it, prior to the Industrial Revolution, production happened on a small, localized scale, often in workers' homes. This was literally called the cottage industry, and everybody was their own entrepreneur. With the invention of the assembly line and the large-scale manufacturing, it made sense to bring workers of a company under one physical roof. The goal was maximize output, and companies treated their people like specialized components of an assembly line, and it was just much more efficient to onboard, manage, and pay, essentially control your workforce when they were just physically together under one roof. Corporations, for the most part, are still structured this way. And when you take a moment to really appreciate how much has changed in the last 150 years, you have to ask yourself, why are we structuring businesses based on these outdated models? And more importantly, what would your business organization look like if you were to design it from scratch today? How would you make work for everybody? So there are three main considerations for our redesign thought exercise, right? There's the workers, the companies, and of course, the technology that is available to us. And so what are the workers looking for? According to Barry Schwartz, who wrote Why We Work, people are looking for meaning from work. Job satisfaction is rarely just about earnings anymore, and rather it's more about having control and achieving meaningful outcomes. For example, the janitorial staff at hospitals reported higher satisfaction when they framed their duties in terms of having impact on patients and patient cares through their contribution to the hospital. In addition to a feeling of value, modern workers are looking for flexibility and the freedom to design their work lives to fit their specific needs and priorities. Think about the working mom or the recent retiree or the recent college graduate. Not everyone is looking for that stable 9-to-5 with a pension plan anymore. The bigger story behind the Great Resignation is actually not about quitting of jobs, though. It's about quitting the confines of the traditional full-time employment. Data shows that self-employment rates have reached record highs as well. So long-term loyalty to one corporation dissipated in the last generation, and we're in the midst of that next evolution where workers are designing their own work lives and becoming self-entrepreneurs. So, and I think it's so great, right? Our surveys indicate that mid-career women who have the setup are working 30% less, making 50% more, and with 100% more flexibility. So then what are the companies looking for? The first and primary consideration is that sustained corporate profitability and growth. To achieve this in the modern era, talent is key. Every founder and executive knows the direct correlation here. Recruiting and retaining the best people is how you achieve this objective. And workers aren't the only ones looking for flexibility. COVID has helped clarify that companies are seeking flexibility too. Competing in this era means that being ready to quickly respond to continually changing dynamics and not being locked into anything long-term or rigid. It's all about these short iteration cycles, quicker decisions, and staying nimble that determines who wins big and loses. And then the last factor to consider is actually the technology available to us now. So back in the day when Edison invented the light bulb, it ushered in a new era of work, right? It was decoupled from the daylight and available to us 24 hours a day. Similarly, modern advancement in technology, so things like workflow tools, automation, AI, and machine learning have allowed for this global asynchronous work and communication. So basically, everything has moved on demand, and including talent, because technology has allowed us to stay connected when we're not physically together anymore. So when you take these elements and redesign work, you end up with this decentralized global work world that has the ability to be optimized for each individual and the company's needs, the flexibility to be perfectly meet each need on demand, and a balance of power between the parties. So, and what do you know? This is the liquid world that is upon us now. I mean, what a coincidence, right? So let me tell you a little bit about the liquid world and the essential elements and how the world works now and how it matches this redesigned one that we just thought up. So first is how companies in the liquid world staff their teams. The fundamental idea is changing the way companies think about a job. It's not a role anymore, but a series of projects. Unlike the traditional approach of simply assigning work to an existing full-time employee, agile companies supplement their core team with this private bench of on-demand specialists who can plug into the company anytime, anywhere, for any duration. So agile companies staff projects with the resource or combination of resources that is the best fit for each specific project. Sometimes it's the full-time staff, sometimes it's the expert from the bench, sometimes it's just a little of both. And when jobs are broken down into projects, not only is the bench as just as highly valued as the full-time team, but the company are able to get much better work product done and more efficiently as needed. For example, one of our customers is a highly profitable and growing 5% creative agency with a private bench over 100 global contractors and service vendors that can pull from for projects. This agency continues to win more RFPs from bigger clients like Netflix and Amazon because they know how to bring together the perfect project team every time. They treat their contractor network as valued teammates, and as a result, this bench jumps at the opportunity to work on this agency's projects, delivering these amazing work projects every time. It's not just about cost savings anymore. They have that firepower to punch above their weight, go against these agencies that are just much bigger than them, and they have this great setup with this on-demand roster. And workers love this flexibility because they get to do core, impactful, outcome-based work, and the agency thrives without having to carry all this fixed overhead they would traditionally have needed. The second part of the Liquid world and how it works is the fluidity of how things are done. The clients and vendors on a project can be small or large and actually change over time. So individual contractors are businesses in and of themselves. And depending on the project, they can actually be doing it as individuals or actually part of a flexible contractor team. So in addition, many times even clients become vendors and vendors become clients. So I'll just give you an example from Flex Team because I think that illustrates it really well. So an executive left her corporate job for a better work-life fit. She joined Flex Team as a freelancer. She picks up these knowledge level projects and she called a brain candy, right? And she fits it around her family's childcare needs and schedule. It wasn't long before she realizes that she can actually earn more and work less by selling this expertise in this flexible way. So she establishes a corporate entity, brings in her own clients, hires her own contractors, and then it includes actually Flex Team, who we now work as her vendor. And I think this illustrates how flexible this Liquid world is. And then lastly, the third piece of how the Liquid world works is the movement of from the employer to employee relationship to more of a business partnership where each party tries to maximize value for each other. So in a business, as you know, if you enter into a business partnership, you're trying to get at least somewhat of an equal value for each other. But in an employer-employee relationship, I think that power is a little off, right? Because the employer isn't actually trying to maximize your employees' earning potential or happiness potential, because doing so usually comes out of the pockets of the employer, right? And it kind of works that way in traditional supplier transactions as well, where the customer gets the most by paying the least, right? But if you're in a true strategic partnership, then both parties are motivated to increase that total pie. So, and this is the structure of the Liquid world. 1,000-person company works directly with a solopreneur, and not to get the cheapest work, but the best work, and it allows for both sides to succeed. So a great illustration of this is the Hollywood model. I'm sure we're in LA, so we know this really well, but the work is inherently a project-based, on project basis. And historically, a lot of the work was done, the studios would actually bring in, have long-term contracts with these individuals. But as CAA and some of these agencies came along, they would bring together these writers and producers and directors and try to increase that negotiating power. And then soon, a lot of the terms added the revenue share, so that power sort of moved from the studios, the hires, to the creative side. And it's a much more balanced way and a much more project-based way to do the work. And so I think this is, we always refer to as the Hollywood model that the Liquid is following. So let me just summarize really quick with the Liquid world here again. So it's a decentralized global work network that is not confined by the traditional corporate structure, where everyone is a business partner working in fluid ways, ready to jump into opportunities that best suits them. So it has that private on-demand talent bench, the fluidity of roles, and the balance of power that where the dynamics where everyone can get to succeed together. And honestly, this is like, I think it's really, really great. So if this liquid world is so great, and Saujin's up here talking about how great it is, why aren't more people doing more on this, right? And it's simple, because people are hung up on these misconceptions of working with non-full-time resources. So some common ones are that they believe contractors aren't reliable because they produce fluctuating work products, or it just takes too much effort to onboard, transfer knowledge, and work with them. Or they're just a stopgap measure, right? Like they're just used for this one-time thing and they're not part of the long-term team at all. Or it's just for quick cost savings, right? It's for cheaper talent, lower level work that can be easily outsourced, especially when it comes to international. And then even if you like contractors, that they believe that the best ones are never available when you actually need them. And how many of you actually thought this? Because most people do, and if you are, I would like to say these are myths based on overblown fears. So really quickly, that trust, right? Self-employed workers actually live on their reputation, even more than any other group. And so happy clients lead to constant stream of steady revenue, and they also lead to that kind of word-of-mouth marketing that freelancers thrive on. Administrative hurdles can all be overcome, especially when there are these tailored plug-and-play solutions. Emergence of digital platforms tailored for contracting, managing, and paying these independent workers have eradicated all these issues, and it's never been easier or viable to work with freelancers or service vendors, especially globally. For the stopgap measures, even though the companies think that the independent contractors are just good for these one-time specialized projects, having a roster of freelancers where you can tap the best one to jump on a project anytime, anywhere, for any duration is not a one-time stopgap measure at all. It's actually a deliberate strategy to make sure you always have the best people working on that specific job that meets those specific budgetary constraints that you have anytime. And then last couple here is that increasingly contractors are bringing specialized skills and do core work that supplements this full-time team. So not just these lower level work. So if you actually think about the international talent right now, they actually garner as high of wages of the onshore guys, because it's not really about the cost savings. If you look for a Web3 developer right now and you try to find somebody, the only way you can make that work is to look for available pool across the globe and think flexibly. And I think that really shows that why the freelance talent, it's really about those knowledge workers, not the cheaper talent. And then lastly, this one's funny to me because I've always been on the freelancer side. And so contractors have their favorite clients too. And they'll prioritize your work if you're one of their favorites and you treat them well, especially with respect and pay and challenging work. So needless to say, I think those are all things that you can overcome. So hopefully by now I've convinced you to dive into this liquid world without any misconceptions, and you're ready to build this modern, dynamic, blended team. So how do you do it? And so I'm gonna leave you with 3 things. If you don't remember anything else except how to pronounce my name, then I'm gonna these 3 things are all you have to remember to succeed in this world. So first is think of projects, not roles. So instead of thinking, I need a designer, think, I need a new logo made, right? Then instead of full-time person, think, is it full-time person right for the job, or is it better to pull on an expert? And regardless of who you rely on, just set up the project with the upfront understanding of what the outcome should be and give that person the autonomy and control to get this project done. Second, think in relationships and not transactions. So recruit your bench like you would for your full-time employees. You want these missionaries that believe in your vision. Treat them like part of your team, or at least really highly valued partners. Think about what the bench needs. Basic things like on-time payments, security, meaningful work, and provide it to them because they'll give that value right back at you. And then don't make the mistake of companies like Google, where they treat their temps contractors as second-class replaceable mercenaries. By building that relationship with your bench, you'll stay on top of their mind and get the best work when you actually need them. And lastly, adopt processes and systems that set you up for controlled agility. So instead of shoehorning in existing systems like payroll or AP systems that are made for traditional ways of working, you want, and shoehorning them into this agile approach, invest your time to implement tools that are specially designed for this new way of working. So from contracting, project management, global payments, working with this flexible group requires like a different type of workflow altogether. So this bench is your competitive edge, your IP. So invest your time on the front end to keep it organized and help you scale so then you can jump on your opportunities, but stay in control and so you can grow quickly. So the payoff for reimagining work like this is huge. Early adopters who embrace this trend are demonstrating an enormous competitive advantage right now. Companies that have a full-time team and a robust, valued private bench can jump at opportunities, streamline processes, eliminate unnecessary overhead, and quickly pivot as needed, all with this happy bench of vendors, contractors, freelancers who work the way they want to and keep wanting to work with these clients. So I'm so excited about the early successes that I'm seeing, especially in these agencies who are set up this way. And I believe by 2040, that majority of all companies are gonna be liquid. So whether you're the talent or the company, like, what are you waiting for? Take the leap now, join the Liquid community today, reap the benefits of being an early adopter, because it's absolutely easy and worth it. And it's really for everyone's sanity around you, but also for your bottom line. So thank you.